Tonight we're going to hear from 3 speakers, and I'll tell you a little bit about them. But before I do, I just want to invite you to have a think about why you might want to come along and listen to some speakers and be involved in a conversation about slow. You know, we do so much rushing around, especially this time of year. And it's easy to get caught up in all the activity. And I know for myself, when I'm rushing around, I'm not really necessarily present to my life and to my conversations. So if you want to just take a minute now, and if it feels good, just close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and really feel like you're here in this space tonight. And you know, just notice how good it feels just to even do that. Perth Green Drinks is not in any way associated with the Greens Party, although occasionally they do lend us equipment. There's a lot of people that are involved in making these nights happen behind the scenes, and I just want to acknowledge a few of those and a few organizations as well. Little Creatures provides beer, which we're very grateful for. Central Institute of Technology, especially Leanne Pereira and Kenley Gordon, who's right here. They provide us with the venue and catering. There's also quite a few volunteers that work behind the scenes. I don't know if any of you know Flavia. She's not here tonight, and she's going to be handing over the torch of organizing Perth Green Drinks to Hannah, who you might have met on the way in. And as well as Hannah, we have Alicia, also Dan and Kathleen helping out tonight. I'm not going to say anything more about that. I'm excited to share with you who our speakers are for tonight. But before I do that, I just want to know that, I want to let you know that the slow movement is about finding the right pace for life. Savoring every minute of it and doing things well instead of doing them fast. It's about quality over quantity, and it's about a deeper connection among ourselves and with nature. And for me, I'm still motivated by self-interest. And I believe the slow movement is also a way that we can positively influence the quality of our lives and our precious time on this planet. If you've ever been to Green Drinks before, you know that we're often blessed with really talented speakers, and tonight is no exception. We've got Claire Vanderplank. She's the founder of the Slow Project. She's an entrepreneur, facilitator, adventurer, and guide, focused on restoring balance. We also have Hannah Etchels. She's an ex-fast fashion junkie. Hannah felt growing unease with the unsustainable mass consumption she helped to promote, and is now back at university for a double degree in botany and conservation biology. And also Jamie Van Jones. She's the founder and director of the Green Scene, a social eco-enterprise that helps businesses, communities, and individuals bring practical sustainability to their day-to-day actions. Although it is a slow night theme, we're also interested in trying to keep to time. So, because there are cold beers and more conversations to follow. When 8 minutes has passed, you'll hear this alarm, and that's a warning to the speakers that they've got a couple of minutes to wrap up. So if you hear that, don't be alarmed. Oh, not that one. That's the wrong one. That will just confuse people. That one. Okay. So I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Claire Vanderplank. She's the founder of the Slow Project. She's an entrepreneur, facilitator, adventurer, and guide focused on restoring balance. She has dedicated most of her life and work to fostering positive change through storytelling, connection, innovation, and dialogue. She's also a director of the Fremantle Wind Farm Cooperative and a guide with the Way of Nature. Claire's biggest questions are about reconnection, wisdom, collaboration, enchantment, and shifting consciousness from ego to eco. And I have seen Claire talk about the slow movement before, and that was before she spent a month on her own living on a mountain. So please join me in welcoming Claire.
Cool. Well, I'd like to start by acknowledging the Noongar people, the traditional owners of the land. Since slow is so much about reconnection, and part of the slow movement certainly is about acknowledging Indigenous wisdom, it's only fair that we can just have a moment of reflection to think about how much we can learn from others living culture on Earth. I do need to get straight into it. We do have a lot to cover. Ironically, because the Slow Project's looking at the slow movement overall, I need to kind of tell you the story of slow from past, present and future. So I really need to make sure that in these 10 minutes I get to the future part, because that's the cool stuff. So my job is really to convince you that the slow movement is actually one of the most important trends that we've got going on at the moment, that really tackles the root cause issues of our current unsustainable way of living. So, I'm going to jump in and see how quickly I can get through this. Which is kind of ironic, but at the same time it's also symptomatic of what I'm talking about, so bear with me. So, I had the idea for the Slow Project middle of last year. I was at the Happiness and its Causes conference over in Melbourne. I just had my radar out. I was kind of already thinking about, okay, what's my next social change project going to be? Wasn't expecting to actually find the topic at this conference, but it kind of was like the universe just hit me across the face. So I heard the author of In Praise of Slow, Carl Honore, talk at this conference, and I heard him talk about the slow movement, listing off all the ways that this slow idea was expressing itself. So it started with slow food, but we've got slow design, slow church, slow sex, slow design, politics, slow media. The list really does go on and on and on, which I thought was fascinating, because I thought, well, there's something in that, you know. People aren't using slow to mean just doing things slowly. They're using slow as a meme. And for someone who's really interested in big picture, like cultural dynamic stuff, that was really fascinating. There was something going on there that was much more than just the pace at which we do things. So I had to stop and ask myself, you know what, why is this so popular? What's at the base of all this? And I was kind of primed to really sit up and pay attention, because the beautiful comic artist Michael Leunig said, you can't love anything at speed, in the talk immediately before Carl Honore. And so I was kind of had this question about, well, what does speed and our fast culture actually do to us? And as I'll go over in the rest of the talk, ultimately it's about disconnection. So to tell you what this slow meme is trying to convey to us, I kind of need to tell you where slow comes from, which inherently is about where fast comes from. So you can probably start the story in many places, but it's probably convenient to start when we invented timekeeping. So there's wristwatches, this alarm that's going to go off probably any second. That really, it changed our relationship with time. We now conceive time as being something linear, but that's not how it was always conceived in the past. Some cultures considered it circular, a matrix. The Greeks had this idea of not just chronos, which was linear time, but also kairos, which is vertical time, which actually means living in the moment. Probably something quite similar to how the dream time was conceived by our Aboriginal people. So our relationship with time changed. And all this actually happened in conjunction around the same time that Christianity was fracturing, and that's actually got quite a lot of relevance to this movement. So once Christianity lost its ability to be the glue that held our culture together and gave us the meaning that we need in order to make sense of how we should live, it opened the gap for science and technology. So without going off on a massive tangent, but I do love talking about this stuff, so come and chat later. The problem with this is not all bad, of course, but it perpetuates our fast culture, because inherent in technology is this idea of quickening. Everything goes faster and faster and faster. So we have this fast culture emerging. It emphasises speed and immediacy. We want things now. Just look at road rage. We value newness. This is actually quite a big problem, I think. So we value information over wisdom. You know, we're all about data will solve it all. Well, not really, because we need to put the pieces of the puzzle together. We value youth over maturity, for example. Look at our attitudes towards ageing and old people. We put up young kids on a pedestal for nothing more than the fact that they're beautiful and exotic, because they inherently have something about newness, but then it drives us to extremes because we've got to be like, you know, the craziest, most eccentric person out there. Anyway, what's that like a Monty Python thing? That thing. It's just like that. All an individual. So all that rushing around leaves us very disconnected. And that's really where the impacts of fast start to play out. So we're left hyper-stimulated and hyper-distracted. Apparently now we've got the attention span of less than a goldfish, which I thought was great. We also can't stand being in our own minds anymore. And just think about that in regards to sustainability. So apparently the majority of people now would rather give themselves an electric shock in order to get out of a bare room before 15 minutes is up. So we hate being in our own minds and listening to our thoughts so much that we will electrocute ourselves. How on earth are we ever going to transition to a sustainable society when we can't even listen to how we respond to things? Also a massive tangent. Talk to me afterwards. And also, with this hyperstimulation, our senses are left dulled. Our perceptions are so over-grossified that we actually have no idea of what we're capable of sensing. And that comes into how much we're able to connect with others, and that includes others as in nature as well. So there's one thing I can pardon you, the ability to be present is absolutely at the core of being able to live slow. So, I love this quote. Wait, I've got to read you a quote. So we live in a society which sees high self-esteem as proof of well-being, but we do not want to be intimate with this admirable and desirable person. So, as Susanna said, I just spent 28 days alone on a mountain. My mother was horrified. She thought that there was something wrong with me. But 28 days, as far as a retreat go, you know, for cultures that incorporated that kind of thing, that's actually really short. And it wasn't that bad. So the slow movement, what I'm arguing is that the slow movement is emerging as a response to the impacts of fast. So when we're so disconnected from ourselves, from others and the planet, we've got some serious problems going on. In fact, slow food, the first expression of the slow movement actually came directly as a result of fast food. But I might tell a story about that. So I also argue with the slow movement that it's like an iceberg. The things that were actually labelled slow is just the bits that we can see, but there's a massive undercurrent moving towards slowing down, of reconnecting, of rediscovering balance and wholeness that may not be labelled slow, but are still counted as part of the same movement. And that's exciting. What? probably mention some of that as I talk, so I'm not going to go over that now. Okay, so what I'm doing with the Slow project, I'm really trying to help this movement move because clearly I'm so passionate about it. The nice thing about the Slow movement is it's not trying to beat you over the head with what you should be doing. Instead, it's actually really an organic movement. So what I'm trying to do is help link people up to the movement and those concepts by experimenting on myself, because I'm not exactly slow yet. It wasn't too long ago that someone told me I should be walking around with a wind turbine on my head instead of trying to get one built at Birmingham Port. But I'm changing that. And also talking to other people and using everyday examples of how we are already doing slow. It's not something that is foreign to any of us. It's just where we place our attention, and where we place our attention matters a lot. Experiential learning is what I'm emphasising, because slow is embodied. You don't understand slow unless you feel it. Much like connection, you can understand how we're all connected and interrelated, but if you don't get a visceral sense of how we're all interrelated, then nothing much changes. So what I'm arguing is that if this slow trend continued on and we deeply implemented those principles, it would enable us to shift from me to we thinking, or ego to eco-based consciousness. So if we manage to work on reducing the barriers of our ego with some practical ways of doing it, it's not just fluff, trust me, that's when we can truly connect. Like, connection is a really not enough of a sophisticated word. There should be 8 different words for connection. But the deepest level of connection is when you actually experience a sense of non-duality, and that's when you really sense our interrelatedness. So if we want to start acting about, the environment, we need to understand and sense our place in that system, and a reorientation so that we're not just seeing ourselves as takers and separate from nature, but we understand that we need to give back in order to have a thriving future. So I knew I'd never get time to talk to you about 28 days, but that eagle was a symbol of what happened to me. And I'll try to get your email addresses so I can send you a bit of a story about that later. But basically, I'm using the way of nature processes as a way of giving people an experience of a deep implementation of the slow principles. The Way of Nature is an organisation that was founded by one of the grandfathers of the environmental movement. So he went from being an ecologist, working in the White House, done far too many things for me to list now, but he realised that the environmental movement was never going to have success unless we managed to bring back in the experiential part of it, because there's a lot of great theories going around, but fundamentally the structures of our society weren't changing. So that's where I'm trying to bring it into our lives as well. I think I managed to do that in 10 minutes, because the other alarm hadn't gone off.
There was no
Yes. She's nice. Wait. Yeah. So, if you're interested, because there's much more I can talk about, we've got some retreats and workshops planned in 2015, but I'm still just trying to finalise details. If I know what people are interested in, then that's going to help me a lot. I'm also on the lookout for good land with natural bush to run this reconnection with nature processes. So I just thought I'd put that out there because it's actually a hard thing to find. So if anyone knows of great land in its primordial stage, let me know. But anyway, I hope to talk to you afterwards.